April 25th, 2014. Guys, I've been working on this video, trying to get the pieces together, but I want to read from it. This is Wikipedia, but the excerpts are from the book you see on the right called The Plutonium Files. It's by Aline Wellsome, and she, in a history of United States government engineered radio experiments on unwitting Americans based on the Pulitzer Prize winning series Wellsome wrote for the Albuquerque Tribune. It says the experiments began in 1945 when Manhattan Project scientists were preparing to detonate the first atomic bomb. Many of these experiments resulted in strong mutation. Radiation was known to be dangerous, and the experiments were designed to ascertain the detailed effect of radiation on human health. Most of the subjects, Wellsome says, were poor, powerless, and sick. From 1945 to 1947, 18 people were injected with plutonium by Manhattan Project doctors. Other experiments directed by the United States Atomic Energy Commission and the Manhattan Project continued into the 70s. The Plutonium Files chronicles the lives of the subjects of the secret program by naming each person involved in discussing the ethical and medical conduct in secret by the scientists and doctors. Goes on and says the project was led by Dr. Joseph Gilbert Hamilton. In Nashville, pregnant women were given radioactive mixtures. In Cincinnati, 200 patients were irradiated over a period of 15 years. In Chicago, 102 people received injections of strontium and cesium solutions. In Massachusetts, 57 developmentally disabled children were fed radioactive oatmeal in an experiment sponsored by MIT and Quaker Oats Company. In none of these cases were the subjects informed about the nature of the procedure and thus could not have provided consent. Let's look at Quaker Oats a minute. In the 50s, researchers from Quaker Oats Company, MIT, and Harvard carried out experiments at the Walter E. Fernald State School to determine how the minerals from cereals would metabolize. Parents of mentally challenged children were asked for permission to let their children be members of a science club and participate in research. Being a member of the science club gave the children special privileges. The parents were told the children would be fed with a diet high in nutrients. However, they were not told, and the consent form contained no information indicating that the food the children were fed contained radioactive calcium and iron. The information obtained from the experiments was used as a part of an advertising campaign. The company was later sued because of the experiments. Guys, it's so deep between this and the nuclear bomb testing and the other things that they have done. It is so deep that we're talking about to the point of terraforming. These experiments in the 50s, and I'm going to tell you more about different experiments, but these experiments in the 50s, guys, were to see what effect the nuclear bombs would have, not on just Japan, in the case of the bombings there after Pearl Harbor, but in how to control the population with it. Now, if you look at the U.S. brands that Quaker Oats is involved with, look at this. Now, they're owned now by PepsiCo, but guys, if they will let the government, people like MIT and Harvard, come in and convince them to put radiation in your children's cereal, as you go down this list, just check it out. It doesn't get any better. What will they do next? They've already been caught in a lawsuit since this time about trans fat. Once people got smart about the radiation, they got in there and people were dying from heart attacks and stuff and obesity from the trans fat. So these people need to be pointed out. This is just like a Harry Reid deal. If these mad scientists will do this, what else will they do? Now listen, a college professor from St. Louis, Missouri has released research claiming the U.S. Army conducted secret Cold War tests by spraying toxic radioactive chemicals on cities like St. Louis and Corpus Christi. St. Louis Community College Merrimack sociology professor Lisa Martina Taylor told the Associated Press that her research showed the Army may have sprayed radioactive particles with zinc cadmium sulfide while claiming that it was testing a smokescreen that could prevent Russians from observing St. Louis from the air. Now it says these tests were concentrated in predominantly black areas of the city, which Army documents called a densely populated slum area. In '94, the Army confirmed to Congress that St. Louis was chosen because it resembled Russian cities. They really confirmed something, didn't they? Said that the U.S. may have to attack with biological weapons. They had no intent. They were experimenting to find out what would happen and how this radiation could control the population. How could it also terraform? And I'm going to show you a video at the end, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But it said the study was secretive for a reason that Martina Taylor explained. Said they didn't have volunteers stepping up and saying, yeah, I'll breathe zinc cadmium sulfide with radioactive particles. Documents showed that the Army used airplanes to drop the chemicals in Corpus Christi, Texas, but sprayers were mounted on station wagons. Now, imagine this. It's like your mosquito control man. You got airplanes coming over. You talk about chemtrails, guys. It says it was pretty shocking. It said the level of duplicity and secrecy. Clearly, they went to great lengths to deceive people. This was a violation of all medical ethics, all international codes, and the military's own policy. There's a lot of evidence that shows people in St. Louis and the city, and particularly minority communities, were subject to military testing that was connected to a larger radiological weapons testing project. That's what I'm saying. Doris Spates lived in one of the impoverished St. Louis neighborhoods as a child and had survived cervical cancer, but 4 of her siblings and her father weren't as lucky. All 5 died of cancer. Guys, this really explains a lot. But what I'm saying is all of this, the experiments with Quaker Oats, the spraying, the injections across the nation, was just simply to find out how well that what I'm about to show you would work. Now, I'm going to sign out on the audio portion of this. I want you to watch the last 2 minutes of this video. These are nuclear tests from around the world, back from in the 40s when they started this, up into 1998, guys, 1998. But watch this. It's incredible. You'll see the flags come up and the numbers from each nation. But now they had completed these experiments. Again, Quaker Oats, MIT, Harvard, spraying Corpus Christi, injecting pregnant females, spraying St. Louis. They knew what would happen. Now, how are we going to do this Georgia Guidestone or 1,200-year culling that I talked about in one of my videos? How would they do it? Now they knew how they had run these tests. Check this out, guys. That's the British testing in the United States. I'll go through this with you. We're looking at Britain. And listen, in that period of time, notice in the bottom right, 2,053 nuclear explosions and tests. Here's Russia. Look at this, guys. You don't think they're trying to control that population there? Look at that. Now everyone, they knew what would happen. Now we got Fukushima, we got WIP, we got Hanford, other places that leak around the world. But this destroyed the atmosphere. This completely circled the globe in radiation. It started the terraforming process and the decline of the population. The United States, 1,032 tests. Russia, you see this, Britain, China, all the way through. It's called terraforming. It's called population control. If our government is this evil, how far down does it go? You know, we worry about things like the Bureau of Land Management and things like that. But guys, this is deep. I've got another video I want to put up before the Pope does his thing on Sunday. There's a lot of new preachers, guys, that have suddenly turned. They've been leading up to it, and they've been opening themselves up for demonic possession, and it's starting to happen all the way from your local preachers. You see the TV evangelists that have always been crooked, Copeland. But it's amazing to me to watch what's happening. And one of the things we've talked about demonic possession and speaking in tongues, and some of the references through history of what's happened to people that did that led themselves into that deception, was their lives were basically destroyed. But what's happening now is it's leading up into the evil spirits that come forth and speak, and it's going to take over the churches. And what's happened, like with Kenneth Copeland and some of the other big guys, you knew it was coming. Anybody with eyes to see, ears to hear. But some of these smaller preachers now, and what they're doing is hammering home the fact that don't get tied up in the doctrine. Remember Tony Palmer with the video with Copeland and the Pope? When he got up and spake, said there's no more religion except the Catholics. Now you're seeing these smaller preachers that you thought were very detailed about the Bible, that starts, if you start questioning them, they start yelling and pointing and saying, don't get hung up in the details. Why are you getting hung up in the details? It's because that without the details and the knowledge of the Bible, you'll be deceived by the Antichrist. So if you're hiding in a closet and you claim to be a preacher, but you have to hide in the closet because you're praying in tongues, you're being demonically possessed. Did you ever see Christ speak in tongues? Remember, the word tongue in Greek is languages. Christ could probably speak every language he wanted to, everywhere he went, but it was known languages. So, and again, the key